Erin McDermott, founder of Sacred Strength and the Sculpted Goddess. I coach midlife women to build muscle, reclaim their physical and energetic power, and reconnect with their deeper truth through strength training, empowered nutrition, and spiritual embodiment. After many decades as an RN and athlete, I believe that true transformation isn't just about the body, it's about energy, soul, and sacred remembrance. That's why I invited today's guest, Susan Grau, a healer, renowned body, mind, and spirit intuitive, inspirational speaker, and Hay House best-selling author. Susan's journey began following a profound near-death experience at just 4.5 years old. This pivotal moment in her life awakened her unique healing abilities, allowing her to connect with spirits from the other side. Susan is a renowned spiritual medium who helps people connect to what lies beyond the physical. And her work is a powerful reminder that we are more than just a physical body. We are multidimensional beings. And today we're going to talk about what happens when we awaken to that truth. So I'm just so grateful, and I just feel in full gratitude in your presence. So thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me today.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I know so many women in my audience are craving a deeper connection to something more, and I feel that they cannot name what that something more is. And I think your work is such a powerful bridge between the seen and the unseen. And I'd love to begin by learning more about your journey into mediumship. Can you share how you first discovered your gifts and what was that awakening like for you?
Well, I think I've always had them, quite honestly. I remember being probably the only thing I remember about being 3 was seeing spirits when animals would die. I would see them moving, floating basically. And to me, that was absolutely normal. There was nothing about it. It just was. I didn't think anything, except for, of course, I was sad that, this little kitten or whatever it was wasn't with us. But other than that, it was in my normal. At 4.5 years old, I was locked in an unplugged freezer in a garage, and I had a very profound experience. And I think when I came back from that was when I immediately was indoctrinated into mediumship. And in fact, I think on the other side I was, because I recall talking to my mom and seeing her move. And my mom obviously was on this planet, and I was, touring with my little entourage on the afterlife. And I remember speaking to her and, looking down and saying, Mommy, I'm in the freezer. And I think that was my first real indoctrination into mediumship and understanding that we can speak to spirits and they can speak to us. But when I came back from that, horrific event, and obviously also life-changing in many beautiful ways, um, I could see spirits. And I could see human spirits, which was different than animal spirits. And because they hadn't died in front of me, I hadn't, they just were there and they were everywhere. They were looking in my window, under the bed, in the corner of the room, down the hallway. I mean, they were everywhere. And during the day, I would play with them. My family called it the creepy room. It was just the living room because I was in there talking to spirits and playing in there. And it did feel a little creepy, I think, because nobody, when you don't know what you're feeling, it can feel very creepy and scary. And, what we fear, we feed. So, it's really important to recognize that they're not here to scare us. But as time went on, it just became my abnormally normal life. And they kept visiting me and they would, wake me up and, say, hey, I just died and I'm so-and-so's brother's best friend. And this is what happened. And they think I died this way and I didn't. This is what happened. And I would, step out of that box and either write it down or tell people as I got older. When I was young, it was just voices and sounds and um, visuals. It wasn't clear enough, so I thought they were the boogeyman. And I would say, "Go away, cover my head," like every other child. But after I got used to it. It just became an easy flow for me. Um, I didn't talk about it. And the reason I didn't talk about it were 2 reasons. One is my mom said, don't talk about it because she was locked up for it. My mother and my brother and my sister had this gift in some form, and she was afraid of it. And the other reason that I didn't talk about it was pretty simple. I didn't know that there was something to talk about. It was my normal. Because I was so young when it happened, I didn't recognize that, oh, this is different. So I'd say to someone, grandma wants to play. And they say, that's what me and my grandma died. And I go, I know, she says she wants to play. I didn't understand that it was not normal for everyone. And so even got married, didn't talk about it. Yeah. Ended up using mediumship later on in life, I always used it. It was always there. And I always told friends things, and, I just knew things. And I would say, oh, that person lost their mom. And then that person would start talking to us and say, yeah, I just lost my mom. Things like that would happen. And people would look at me like, this is really weird. Um, but I ended up becoming a therapist in addiction and grief, which of course, grief, obviously the reason why, because I was understanding it in some form, and ultimately got my doctorate in divinity and worked with children with near-death experiences. So that's kind of just the path I took, and it fell into my lap. I didn't go to it.
It's amazing. So, do you think that some people are born athletic, some people are born intelligent, some people are just born with being able to talk to spirit? Do you think it's a gift that
I
is
think
given?
everyone has gifts. I love the way you said that. I love the way you ask it. No one ever says it that way. I do. I really believe that everyone has gifts. This one's kind of cool, but everyone has gifts, Um, I believe that we all have the ability to tap into that area of our brain, but I don't believe everyone is meant to do that in this life journey,
So I
especially
do have
not
a
for healing.
yes. Now, I've never spoken about this in a public setting, but when I was, I don't know, maybe between 5 or 8, I woke up and there was an Indian spirit on my bed, and I felt the pressure of her sitting. And I just remember, like, I was frightened to, like, frozen and out of fear because I was so scared. But that I only told my 3 sisters, and it was like a really fun day. We were trying to hunt around to find her again. But and I've always been connected, but I've never seen another spirit again. Do you think it's sometimes that might happen to people and the spirits don't want to scare you, so they don't come
It
back?
can be. Well, they are there. They don't go away. So it's not a matter of them coming back, but I think that we limit our beliefs. We have limiting beliefs. And so when we get frightened, we certainly do. We start putting walls up, and even though they're talking to us, we're not hearing them. And when we do hear them, we don't think it's them. So we don't correlate the two. So I believe that they're always next to us. They're just on a higher vibrational dimension. They're not gone. And, as far as being frozen, that makes total sense to me because they do create paralysis in children. Being a child, and working with children, I see it all the time, and adults actually, because they don't want us to be afraid, but they also know that if we get too afraid, we're going to jump out of bed, we're going to run, we're going to cover our heads, we're not going to pay attention. So what they do is they kind of freeze you into almost a fear state, even though it's not meant for that. And you can't really move. It's like you're frozen. You don't even blink, and it's just right there in front of you, and it
Oh,
is to
yes.
help you learn to work with them. And when you get so fearful, they will pull back, but they don't go away.
Wow, that is exactly what happened. So that's so amazing. So fear is a lower vibration. So do you think when we're in fear, that really blocks us from being a creative and being connected to what we're truly meant to be?
Well,
And
yes.
how would we release the fear?
Well, anything we fear, we feed, and what we feed, we perceive or believe, and what we perceive and believe becomes our reality. So if I hear a noise in my house and there's a banging and it's actually my animal, but I think it's something else, and I go, someone's in my house, I start to panic and fear. It becomes a reality for me at that moment, at that very moment. And so with spirits, they see that and they go, oh, I'm not here to scare them. I'm gonna pull back. And so what was just the second part of your question? I'm so sorry. I heard that part about the fear.
We release that fear so we can live in a higher vibration.
Well, I think that, fear is something, they call it false evidence appearing real. I say drop everything and run. That's kind of the fear base I get into. But fear is a necessity in our human condition. It truly is. It needs to be there. If a lion's chasing me, I need to run. If someone's, trying to get me or break in my house, I need to respond in fear. And that's our ego of survival. And it's necessary. It's a necessary evil, so to speak. It also can save our lives. But when we are fearing where we come from and our actual innate energy, that's what we need to work through, and recognizing that they are us and we are them, and we're in their world as much as they are in our world. And so they're probably over there going, not over there, but in that dimension going, wow, that person just popped in on me while I'm eating dinner. And we're going, wow, was that someone who popped in on me when I was eating dinner? So they're not any different than us in that way because they are us. They're
Right.
just us on a different kind of soul level. And so I think releasing the fear of they're here to harm us. Um, if they were wanted to harm you, you would be harmed. They're powerful energies, and they meaning us too. If we want to harm someone, we're going to harm them. We're all powerful energies, but that's not their purpose. Their purpose is to love us and to support us. So you're fearing something that actually is a support system.
That's amazing. Now, how did you stand in your truth?
Mm.
Because it is hard to stand in your truth. And that's what I see with most women. It's hard to stand in your truth. It's hard to stand in your power. It's really hard to say, this is who I am, and I don't care what anyone else says. Like, how did you actually come to terms with that?
I don't know if I fully ever have. I mean, there's times where people ask me what I do for a living, and I'll say I'm a therapist because I can feel the energy of them and I
Yeah.
know how they're going to respond.
Right.
Most times I just speak it all, what I do. And some people look at me and go, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
case. And some people go, wow, tell me more. I love that. If they're questioning, they're learning. And that's the goal, is to learn and grow in this. Um, for me, I hit it. Even I got married, I didn't tell my husband. I didn't want anyone to know, but part of that had to do with the fact that I didn't understand that it was different. I truly didn't. Even as a young woman, when I started to understand it, I would say things to people in therapeutic, settings like, the reason that you have this traumatic, response mechanism, because we didn't call it PTSD at the time, the traumatic response mechanism is because, you tried to revive your grandmother when she died and you couldn't. And it created this traumatic response mechanism when somebody looks like they're going to pass out, et cetera. And they'd say to me, I didn't tell you that. And I would step back, and I would physically, move back and say, oh, I'm sure you did. And they'd say, no, I know I didn't. And I said, maybe I'm thinking of someone else. And they'd say, no, no, that happened, but I didn't tell you yet. I never went back that far, and I'd be panicking. So I couldn't tell the difference between the spirit world talking to me and them. What happened as time went on is people started to come to me so much for mediumship, and even outside of grief, because it is a grief journey, mediumship. And but even outside of that, and I would do my job. And so I decided when Facebook came out is when I actually came out of the closet, the Riviera closet. I just didn't know what to do. So I wrote, I'm a medium. I talk to dead people. Da 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 da. I went through this whole thing. And if you don't want to be my family and you don't want to be my friend, that's okay. And I was just like a child. It was like a child, opening up. And I pressed the button and I started sobbing. And it wasn't from fear. It was from relief. And
Yes.
people said to me, "Did you not think we knew you did that?"
Oh, interesting.
Very few people were surprised, and they probably thought I was in that case, But I came, my family and the background of my family was Catholicism, and so some of my cousins and stuff, they would look at me like, "Who is this person? What is she doing?" But they never said anything to me, so I'm guessing. Um, and I just let it be what it was. I didn't hold on to the need to have it be any different than what it was at that point.
Nice. Um, I'd like to share a personal story because I have some questions and I believe my personal story will help others. It's just a few minutes. So, at my core, I'm an intuitive. I've always felt energy since a child, felt truth, felt people. But just over 18 months ago, when my mom passed away, like something inside me shifted. So, it kind of cracked me wide open. And what followed was a deep, sacred healing journey, and it stripped away everything that wasn't real, and it brought me back to what truly matters. It brought me back to me. And through that grief, I remembered that when we stand in our truth without hiding and without shrinking, we begin to do the work we were put here to do. So just a few weeks after my mom died, I just dropped my son off at gymnastics, and I've done this countless times. And like most days, I started driving toward my gym to meet my husband for a workout. But as I turned onto the main road, something began to happen, like in my body and in my mind, and it kind of started small, like an uneasy feeling, a little bit of flutterness in my belly, like physical restlessness. And then it felt like panic came over me, and it wasn't like fear, but it was like waves of crashing energy throughout my body. It felt uncontrollable and quite unfamiliar. I've never felt like this before, ever. So I approached the four-way intersection, and straight ahead was to my gym, and to the right was to go home. But something really deep inside me said, not go to the gym today. So I turned right, and as soon as I walked into my house, I only got to the kitchen, and I literally just dropped to the kitchen floor. So it was like a weight had been just planted on my whole body, from slammed just right on the kitchen floor on my knees. And it just kind of took over me. And I just started to cry, but it wasn't just crying. It was weeping like a baby, like a child. And I couldn't catch my breath. And I felt like I was hyperventilating. And my legs gave out. And then these thoughts came like, should I call somebody? Is this a nervous breakdown? Like, should I call the police? I didn't know really what was going on, but really, what could they do? And what could anyone do? Because there was actually no one to call, because there was really no one that could help in that situation. But then something else entered into my mind that was very unexpected, and it was unexpected shame. Because all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I felt embarrassed, alone on my kitchen floor in my home, but nobody even watching me. So that was very strange. No one judging, and yet I felt foolish. I felt weak. I felt too much, kind of like an annoyance. Eventually, those feelings left, and I just got up, wiped my tears, and carried on with my day. And I didn't really understand what happened until later, but I knew something had cracked open, like almost like something sacred or terrifying, or maybe both. And I just couldn't name it then. So I just tucked it away. But I let it live in the background, and I couldn't really name it until one day it hit me like a lightning bolt that it actually wasn't a panic attack. I felt that it was a transmission. So the moment I collapsed on my kitchen floor, I was like sobbing and unable to breathe. I didn't feel like that was random, because it wasn't just my grief. I felt like it wasn't just my trauma, it was part of my mother's. I felt like it was my mother's pain, her terror, her final moments, her unspoken trauma, unheld, moving through my body. Because she died unexpectedly on a cruise ship with a man who emotionally abused her for years, and I tried for years to get her away from him, but nothing helped, and she died in that room. So my question, from a spiritual or energetic perspective, um, that shame, where does that shame come from? Is it something, could that have been something that I felt from my mom?
It could very well be. I really feel like as they're going through their um, life review, they're releasing all of the reasons for being here and the reasons for leaving. What didn't they do right? What did they do right? What did they learn? What did they not learn? What did they feel? What did they not feel? And they're releasing those energies in their life reviews. And so I feel that that's probably what you were experiencing, was almost a shared life review. And that would crack you wide open. And I've had the experience. I worked hospice for a long time, so I've had these experiences. So I understand, feeling that shared life review. And we don't know when they're going to have that, or what that looks like. I don't even know, exactly when each individual spirit's going to have their life review. But it sounds to me like that's what she was dealing with, and she was releasing, and you, as her daughter, being connected to her, probably picked up that energy and shared that experience for those moments, which is very intensive.
Sensitive. Like, how do you see shame showing up in like an energy field or body, especially for women?
Oh, I think it shows up in a numerous amount of ways. It shows up in weight, it shows up in a lack of self-esteem, it shows up in a lot of patterns in our journey, a lot of them, who we choose, who we don't choose, and what we stay in, what we accept, what we don't accept. Shame has an acronym, should have already mastered everything. That's the acronym for shame. And we are impossibly, it's impossible for us to master everything. And once we realize that, we can actually remove shame from our experience, because it doesn't really fit for our experience. But what it is a lack of self-esteem and a lack of self-knowledge. And we think we should have mastered the relationship or mastered how we felt about ourselves, or, and there is no should. We are going through our experience to learn. We're here to learn and grow. So for me, shame is an unnecessary evil, because I know I haven't mastered everything, and that I am going to do things that I wish I wouldn't do and say things I wish I wouldn't say, and I'm going to learn by those things. So I've removed the shame and entered into a higher vibrational energy, which is I am having a human experience. I'm not just a soul having a human experience. I'm a human having a soul experience. And in that human part of me, I'm going to do things and say things that I need to rectify. The only way to release that shame is to face our demon, right? So say I do something, this is an example. Say I have a conversation about someone with someone else and that person finds out and they call me on it. I have two choices. I can deny and blame and point fingers, or I can say, you're absolutely right. That was wrong of me. What can I do to make this right? And that takes the shame out of it. And people don't do that. That is exactly the words I would use. What can I do to make this right? Is there anything that I can do? Because I am wrong. That was wrong of me. And instead of saying, shame on me, I acknowledge the wrong behavior and it releases the shame.
Yeah. What what do the souls want us to like? What do they want from us in this life? What is the purpose of us going through all this trauma?
Well, I truly believe that we go through both. We go through all the gamut of emotions. And that's what makes us want to come. We go through the most intensive love in the world and the most painful experience, so they're all valuable. And I really believe that pain and joy are equal in value. And in fact, the pain has taught me more than the joy. And we are here for soul expansion. And when I'm in pain, I want out, and I want out now. And I'm going to do anything I can to get out of that pain. And what I have learned over my journey is to live in the pain. Let it work me, not me working it, because it is in charge at that point. And I've surrendered to that. And it has taught me more because I'm not fighting it. Everything we battle, when we're in a battle, we're not living in the reality of what we need to experience.
That's a really important point. So what I think is the saddest thing is when children leave the earth and leave the parents in such profound sadness. Because I know two people just on social media that one son, he was probably 12 and he just went to hockey practice. Somebody drove him, got in a car accident, and the mom never saw him again. And then some little boy had like another little boy, I think he was 10, just had heart issues, but was doing amazing. Went to have a procedure and he didn't come home. And you know what? It's just so sad. What is something that we can say to these grieving parents? What is something we shouldn't say? How can we help them? First when it immediately happens, or maybe a year down the road, like how can we help these people? Like I want to reach out to them. I just don't know what to say.
Most of us don't know what to say, and it's one of the problems of why people move away. It's their worst nightmare to think of losing a child, so they want to back away. They think it's going to rub off on them in some way, or the reality is too much for them to handle. Um, for me, I move into it, and I don't have to say anything. I just need to show up. That's all I need to do, so I will say there are no words, but I am here, and I leave it there. I don't go further. I don't have to have the conversation. The reason that we get nervous and don't know what to do is because we're uncomfortable with the painful feelings they're having. We're feeling uncomfortable with it. We don't know how to get out of it because we're taking it on. Most of us are holding other people's energy, and all we need to do is hold the space.
Oh, yes, that's so big.
Yeah.
I find that is, especially for midlife women, when I coach them to get strong and lean and lose weight, they hold other people's energies, and that's why they can't stay consistent and move through that. So, for instance, I had a client and she's doing okay, and she had some really great goals, but her animal got ill, one of her favorite animals, and so she pulled back. And my point of view is that, like, my mom died, my husband has a chronic cancer for 8 years, but I come first. And that took me a long time to get to this place where my health and my energy comes first, because you literally can't provide from an empty cup. So how can we help women through spirituality or connecting to their soul, or maybe connecting to spirits, help them not carry the energy of other people's energy? And how do they put themselves first and not feel selfish and guilty? Because we do carry the mother guilt.
Well, I think that it's almost impossible not to feel guilty or selfish when we put ourselves first when someone else is in need.
Yeah.
And, that's just something we have to reconcile, right? I know that if I put myself first and someone's in need and I'm not in need at the moment, in that moment, I'm not in need, I'm going to have to reconcile that with myself and say, what is the moment? What is the now? Am I in need right now? Now, the goal is to recognize if we are. So when I know you mean long term and over a period of time, and I understand that, but there is the moment also. Um, for me, making sure that I say it differently. It's not that I come first, it's that I am as important as. And that changes my view of it. So
Right.
if someone is going through pain and suffering, I know my health and well-being is as important as their pain and suffering. So it
Yeah.
takes away that either or. And the either or is what throws us. And women want to help. They're healers. They're natural born healers. Most women, not all women, most women. And so we want to help everyone heal. And we will put ourselves aside and let ourselves be beaten down. So when we recognize that we are as important as, or our need is as important as this situation, this person, place, thing, or situation, we are able to do both to the best of our ability. So I can care for me and care for you, because when I'm caring for me, I'm caring for you because I have more to offer. So I don't make it an either or situation. I don't say me first. The minute I go to me first, I am already guilty. I'm already feeling guilty. And I think that's inherent in women because we are born to, to give birth, raise children, give, and, we are created with that beautiful synergy. And so I don't go there.
I have a question about control, because especially just learning with my husband's cancer in the beginning when he was diagnosed, I wanted to control everything. I'm like, oh no, because I'm a nurse, I'm going to control your appointments, your meds, who you talk to, and it wasn't until I started working with a medium and she said, Erin, you have zero control over when your husband dies, when he, how he lives or how he dies. So stop trying to control him and his situation, right? So I think that a lot of women, especially midlife women, kind of get stuck in the process of trying to control outcomes, and that's where they can't move forward, because then they get upset and angry when they're not doing it their way. And I think especially women try to control their husbands. So
I
how
think I think I think women try to control their husbands because most of them feel very upset that their husbands are ill and they could lose them and they're not doing what they need to do to stay well. And that is very frightening and it feels very overwhelming. If someone can take some actions to get well and they're not doing that, you're going to get scared because you love this person, you want them to heal. So it's a natural response. The bottom line is we don't have control, and that is the truth. If I could heal them, they'd be healed. Trust me. If I could make them do something, they would do it, and they don't. So I am very aware that I don't have control over people, places, things, and situations. And I remove myself from trying. What I can do is control my responses. And that's
Yes.
the only control I have. And we are reactionary beings. Everyone is, male and female, but especially females. We react very quickly. We're emotional beings. We feel things on a very deep level, emotional level. And it's beautiful. We are not sensitive or oversensitive. We are sensitives. We feel. And so we react to everything. And what I try to teach people is reacting never works. You have to pause and take an action. What is the next right action? And it may be just to be quiet, and let people do what they need to do. Or it could be that we need to sit down and say, listen, your life matters to me and it affects my future, what you do here. And I need you to know that. And then we have to let go and allow them to do what they're going to do. But speaking it from a place of truth is what truly matters. So when my husband has something wrong and he doesn't want to go to the doctor, and he says, I'm not going. And I say, you understand that something happening to you is going to affect my life. And so this is important to me because it affects me also. And it's causing me worry and pain. Then I have to let him make his own decision. He may still choose not to do anything, that he's making the choice not to worry about how it's affecting me. And I have to look at that truth,
Right.
that he's not worried about how that's affecting me. Why isn't he? Why isn't he? What's going on here? Where's the communication falling? So, but then I have to leave it where it is.
Right. It's the act or the feeling of surrendering to the process of we're on this journey together, but in reality, I have no control over when anybody is going to die. I have no control over what their body's going to do or the decisions they're going to make. I can help influence them, right? But for me, it was like, it's almost a relief of letting go of that control because there is a higher power. And I believe that there's, something for every soul has a path, and I cannot come in and disrupt that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think they can get off the beam, but that's not our responsibility to shift. I
yeah,
picture a light beam, a beam. We're on the beam when we're moving forward in our soul journey, right? And we fall off all the time. We all do. And no one's going to put me back on that beam. That's my job. And I have to decide if I actually want to go back on it. Maybe I don't for a while. Maybe I want to wallow in self-pity, or maybe I want to wiggle on the ground. Who knows what I need to do to get where I need to get. I do not know better than they do. I always say I can't, they can, let them.
yes,
It's their job. It's not mine, meaning spirit. I can't, they can, let them. And I am not someone's higher power. I'm not even my own higher power, and I know that to be true. And I say that to
mm,
myself,
mm,
they have a higher power or God or whatever they choose to call it, and it's not me. And when I
yeah,
say that, it gives me a sense of peace because I know that at this point I can pull back and allow the spirits to do their work, whatever that looks like. And that's the scary part, isn't it? Letting go of that control and whatever it looks like, those words. I don't want it to look particular ways, but you know what? It's not my decision to make. And I recognize that today in my journey. Does that mean I never try to control? Absolutely not. I do try to control things, and I have to remind myself of that. But when I was on the other side, one of the things I heard them say, well, two things I heard them say that I've carried my whole life. One was what you try to control controls you, and what you run from chases you. And those are truths. If I run from something, it's going to come in front of me again and again and again until I deal with it. And that's for every human. And what I run from, or what I try to control, controls me because I can't stop thinking about it. And I'm always trying to do something about it. So I at that point have no control anyway. It's controlling me. So what's the point of bothering? I need to just let it go and let it be what it is. But I will speak my truth. And I think women have been taught over centuries not to speak their truth, especially to husbands, to, people that have love base, anything that's love based. Maybe they won't love me if I tell the truth of what I really feel or what my real experience is. And the goal is to speak our truth. So, and is it easy? Absolutely not. Is it doable? Yes, it's doable. And once you start doing that, you become empowered. You don't have power, you become empowered. But we've given our power away to so many people, women over the centuries. We just hand our power out to everyone. Just take my power. It's like take my arm and I need to use it, but you can have it for now. That's what we're doing. And at some point we have to say, okay, I need to re-empower myself. Okay, is it easy? No. But it's simple. It's a simple concept. And once we understand that concept, we can move towards it.
Yeah, and I think that was with when my mom was alive, there was such friction because she had this man in her life that was not good for her. And I, for so many years, tried to control that. I
Mm.
tried to empower her. I tried to use my voice. I tried to use kindness, anger, letting go, surrender, to I finally had to start grieving my own mom while she was alive. And that surrender allowed me to take my power back, right? Because I knew that, okay, my mom's a grown woman. She made her own decisions. And unfortunately, her decisions did lead to her death, but I have nothing to do with that. I could not have saved her,
Mhm.
right? But that was empowering for me as well to know. So that's what I want to bring to especially midlife women, because it is a burden that was never mine to carry. My mother's grief, her pain, her childhood, but I was the daughter that took that on and used my voice to try to get her out of the situation.
Well, I,
And it did,
I think we confuse love with control.
yeah,
Because we love someone doesn't mean that we carry their decisions. And I think that we believe, and as I said earlier, if I could control it, it would be controlled. If I could fix them, they'd be fixed because I'm a great fixer. I want to run around and fix everyone. But I can't fix others, and I recognize that. So I have to fix myself. And keeping my eyes on myself and allowing others to take their path is really painful when we love. Because a form of love is saying, I want you to do it the right way, what I think is right for you, so that you can be okay. And when you see, I mean, let's be real about this. When you see someone being abused and you love that person, you're going to want to change that and you're going to try. But when you start getting sick from it and you start, not being able to care for your own self and you're hyper focused on it and all these things, you're now getting unhealthy from it. We get as crazy, if not crazier, than they do trying to control them. But we're going to want to. I'm never going to say that if somebody is in a bad situation that I don't want to get them out of it because I will always want to. The question is can I? And the answer is no. I can support them. I can love them. I can give them, my little words of wisdom and my little pearls. I can be there when they need me for the shoulder to cry on, as long as I'm not making myself unhealthy in the process. Because once I'm unhealthy, we're no good to each other because now I'm just going crazy with them. I'm getting just as insane.
right. And that's why I want to teach women so that they can stop getting stuck. So, but my clients have been my greatest teachers, because I learned to let go, whether they get the results or not, is, it's up to them. And that's been a very much a healing journey for me.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. Let go and allow, I say. I say it all the
yes,
time. Let
let
go and
go and
allow.
allow. Do you think, or what do you say to women who feel like they missed their calling, or is it too late to live their soul's purpose?
It's never too late to do your soul's purpose because your soul purpose you're going to live regardless. You think that,
Oh, really?
there's a life purpose, which might be, being a nurse or being, a therapist or whatever it is we do. And then there's a soul purpose, and that's self-love. And we are moving towards that at all times, even when we're in abusive relationships, even when we're in pain. Self-love is the hardest thing that we create in us. It is the most difficult. I can look at someone else and say, oh my gosh, you look beautiful and you're so kind, and look at myself and go, why did I say it that way? I mean, I can go right to self, punishment. And so, the goal in our soul, our true soul purpose, our bottom line soul purpose, which has a lot of little fingers off of it, a lot of little roots, but the main root is self-love. And our soul is connected to the divine. I call it the vine to the divine. And the reason I call it that is because it is always being infused with energy and love and healing and grace. It's always being loved from the other side, and it's showing us how to love ourselves. And if we just listen to our souls, we're going to reach for that, and we're going to be able to step into that. I don't know if I'll fully achieve that completely until I'm gone. I don't know if I will, but, and probably even then I will come back here again to try to recreate that, understanding of how important my soul is, and to have full self-love. I think we will always find something because we're having a human experience. And that's part of what we learn in this human experience, is that we're not enough. So the goal is to recognize we are worthy, we are lovable, we are capable, and we are enough. And that takes a lifetime.
So one of the most important soul's purpose is self-love, you're saying.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And what does that look like for you that looks different for me? We have to remember that too. See, I want to believe that I know what is best for someone to get to self-love and what they actually need. And in truth, I don't. They know what they need. The question is are they going to do it? And if they choose not to, I need to allow them that, because that's part of the process of them gaining that self-love, is to learn, oops, don't like this feeling. Don't like what I just did. Doesn't feel comfortable. Maybe I'll try this. And we try by trial and error, and we think we're wrong. And I say being wrong teaches us how to be right. So it can't be wrong. So I allow people their journey because they have to guide themselves into that self-love. And what I offer them is a self-acceptance. What I offer is I can love you and hold that space for you, even if you don't. That's my job. My job is not to give them the means to create their self-love. That's their job through the divine vine.
And I think that's what's missing for a lot of people, their connection to the
Yeah.
divine. So we're trying to preach that and get that out to mostly women from my people. Do you think there's such a thing as divine timing, or do we create our own alignment through choice and action?
I think both. I believe that there are some things that are in divine timing, and they are in our contracts, and we make that decision. So it might look like this. My soul might want to understand and resonate in the energy of marriage. I'll be married. I might be 98, but I'll be married on this journey. Who I marry, how long I marry, the kind of marriage I have is my free will. And that's how my soul grows and expands. So I can walk in a different door. There might be 3 doors in front of me. I walk in one and I'm walking to a narcissist, and I can say I'm going to marry him anyway, or I can listen to my soul and love myself enough to say I'm walking out that door. And, some of us, that's not a good or bad thing. We don't have to judge that, but we are all judging each other and ourselves. So we go, I married him anyway because I really needed that at the time. Okay. That's okay. Don't beat yourself up. That doesn't serve you. That doesn't get you anywhere. But we do have another choice, and that's to walk out at any given time during that relationship. Could be we're 98, but we could walk out, right? And then we go in the next door. And the next door may have a loving, really wonderful man, but he doesn't thrill us. And we go, you know what? I'm not feeling that. I just don't feel it. I'm walking out. So we have these different choices, and that might have been the best choice for our soul to heal, but we chose not to. And that's okay too, because I'm going to grow from that. And I'm going to look back and say, oh, wow, I wonder what that would have been like for me. Maybe I will do that differently, or maybe I'll make a different choice. So we have free will.
So you think that we come here for contracts, we kind of, pick and choose what we're gonna do, but then we have choices that might turn us in a different direction?
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
Yes,
so it's
absolutely. If we
not
don't
gonna
have free
happen,
will, we're
right?
robotic, and if we're robotic, what's the point of being here? We might as well stay there. Free will is involved in everything we do. And we don't know what someone's free will is going to be. I can be in a room with someone and think I know what they're going to do next. It's why when people do psychic readings, I'm always cautious. And I say, yes, you see the trajectory, but you cannot know what I'm going to do at this moment. Tell me what my next step is. And they can't, because we don't know someone's free will. I could get up and walk out. I could tell them they're crazy. There's so many things I could do that would be out of character for me, but I could do them. So my free will is involved in every choice and decision I make, but the contract will be the contract.
So how is that possible? The contract is the contract, but we have free will, so the contract might not take place
No, the contract will take place. So
or take
here it
place.
is. Our free will can stop the process in the moments,
Okay.
right? But the contract will ultimately be. So the contract is the big finale, right? Again, marriage or having a child. My soul might want to understand and
Married.
resonate in
It's
that.
okay.
That's the big bang, right? But how I get there is my free will. I will get there, but how I get there And the kind of relationship I have in that and with that and to that and for that is my free will. And that way I grow and expand because I'm going to go, why did I choose that? I need to choose differently. This is not healthy for me. This doesn't feel right to me. This isn't what my soul wants for me. And we shift, but yet we're still in marriage because that's what our soul, and then we might leave that marriage, but we got married, right? We can't learn without a contract and know that we have something to learn. The contract is you have something to learn. What is it? Well, I want to learn about marriage. I want to learn about having children. I want to learn about infertility. I want to learn. We have choices. It's like I was infertile. And I went through in vitro and all these other things. And I did all this free will stuff to get pregnant, never did get pregnant, adopted my children. So and I am a mother because I had a contract to be a mother. How I got there is my free will. I would have done it either way. It would have happened. If it didn't happen with my free will leading me into adoption, which it led me down all these different roads, it would have led me through maybe marrying someone that had a child. It will
Mm.
happen. It's just a matter of when.
And so you say that we all have spirit guides. They're all around us. They're there, but they're not intervening because they're just kind of hanging out watching us.
Oh no, they intervene.
They do
They
but
do, but we don't
is
listen.
is it the in like sometimes I call it downloads, it's like a thought that you have just comes and that's your spirit talking to you
Sometimes it
sometimes.
comes through the crown chakra. Sometimes it comes through an experience. Sometimes it comes through another human talking to you. They'll do anything they can to get through to you, but do we listen? That's decided by our free will. Am I going to listen to my guide? If I'm going down the street and I hear something scream in my ear, don't go down that other street, and I do, and I get in a car accident, that was my free will making that decision. They weren't punishing me. They didn't want that. They were telling me not to do it, but I wasn't listening. So that's why we have to be present. I say we have to be in the now. The now is everything. Life is in session. Be present. And if you're in the present moment, you're going to know when they're talking to you. So when students come to my office, I'll say to them, what color were the flowers you passed when you walked to my office? And they'll all their heads go down. I don't know. And I'll say, how would you know if a spirit was walking beside you? How would you know if your loved one's talking to you? How would you know if your guides are trying to tell you something if you don't know what you saw with your own eyes? You're not present. Be present. Life is in session. Be in the now. And if you can do that, and that's really hard for me to do, I don't take that lightly. That's not easy, but it's a simple concept again, and it's saying to yourself, okay, am I present in this moment? And if I am, what am I witnessing? And when we do that, life isn't just moving through us all the time, but we're actually experiencing it and we're hearing what's around us.
Well, people say to you, well, how do I know if it's spirit talking to me or I'm having crazy thoughts? How do
Doesn't
you
matter. So
doesn't
here's the great news about that. If a spirit's talking to you and you say, thank you for the information, and it wasn't them, they say to themselves, they're aware that I can talk that way. I'm going to now. So you can't be wrong. They're going to start coming to you that way. The minute you acknowledge a way that they can speak to you, they're going to work hard to do that. So say, I think I hear my mother saying, don't do this. Or, watch what you're doing now, or I love you, Susan, whatever it is. And I say, thanks, mom. And it wasn't her. She's going to be aware and she's going to say, you know what? She listens that way. I'm going to work on that. So I can't be wrong. Spirit speaks for our greatest good. So whether it's our consciousness or spirit speaking to us, it's for our greatest good. So it can't harm us. It can only help us. So being in the moments matter. We are very powerful beings. We have our own consciousness, and our consciousness speaks to us. My consciousness will say, Susan, do not go out tonight in the dark by yourself walking down that alley. And I might do it anyway, but my consciousness tells me that, not my guide. Common sense is part of our consciousness. So I want to
right?
utilize that in my journey. And when I do, I know that we are one. We are one consciousness working together to create a positive experience for ourselves.
And so everybody has their own guides.
Yes.
Everybody has their own like soul family that's with them all the time. And sometimes I think I know, like I kind of have like little vision of them and I think that's them. Would that be them? If I, you know what I mean?
Why wouldn't it be?
Right. Right, right, right.
My intention means everything with the spirit world. I keep seeing light going back and forth. I'm trying to figure out what that is
I
behind me.
do too, behind you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, um, our intention is everything with the spirit world. And in fact, our intention here is everything. What is our intention? What's our motive? Right. And so if my intention is to have self-care,
There's a light again.
self-care, take care of myself, do the right things, etc., then I'm going to be in a good space, aren't I? Whether it works out for me or not, my intention is good, and it's to help me heal and help me be better than what I was a minute ago. So intention matters. That's why people say, well, what's your motive? What is your motive? I have to look at that sometimes and go, what is my motive? That wasn't a very good motive. My motive was, well, and I think, oh God, I need to go back and correct that. I need to clean up my side of the street because my motive was not good. And then there's times where I go, I had a really good motive and my intention was for healing. And I can forgive myself and not be in shame and not do, put myself through a bunch of nonsense in my head because I know that my motive was good. And even though it didn't work to where I thought it should, it worked exactly as it needed to. It landed where it needed to land.
When somebody dies and somebody wants to connect with their loved one, they don't have to go to a medium, right? Can they connect with them through their thoughts? Can they speak out loud? How can they connect to somebody that has passed?
They can absolutely connect with them. Um, I don't know if that's a person or what's going on back there right now,
I
but
do.
it might be a person. Um, they absolutely can c-
Talk to
connect.
their guides, yeah.
Yeah, connect to the thoughts. They absolutely can.
But they're people that just pass. Like say someone just passed and they want to talk to their loved one. Is it a prayer? Is it just a thought? Like how can they connect to them?
Well, for me, I have the three mechanisms I use: awareness, acceptance, and action. I become aware that something's changed in the room. My hair stands on end. I get a chill,
Mm.
get goosebumps. I become aware. And then I accept. So when I become aware, they become aware, I'm aware, right? I'm in the now. I'm in session with life. I'm paying attention to the moment. They become aware of that and they start to get excited. It's like, oh boy, she's going to listen now. And then I go to acceptance. I accept that something's actually in the room. Not just something's changed, but something's in the room. A spirit is trying to talk to me. I just go to right to acceptance of that. And then the action is trust. They become aware and they become aware that I've accepted, and then they become aware that I'm trusting. And so here they come. They come to us. We don't go to them. We can ask for them to come to us, but they're in charge, you know? And when we're in their world, we're in charge. I think when we're, visiting and they're hearing us, we're having our conversations here and they're hearing us there. They're probably going, I can't control this. I keep hearing them. I keep hearing my daughter talking, so I really believe that it goes both ways. It's just a matter of the highest vibration. So that's a higher vibrational energy. And love is the highest vibration in existence. So that's why self-love is so important on this journey, because we want to vibrate as the highest vibration we possibly can. And that means self-love has to exist.
So that's a good message for people who have just lost their loved one and they want to connect.
Love them. Love them, give love. Know that, people always are so upset when their loved one goes to someone else and gives a message like a dream. And I tell them they're going to reach you one way or the other. They love you. They're going to your loved one because you're in a low vibrational energy at this moment. You're in grief, and grief is a very low vibration. It's like hate, it's very low in vibration. And grief pulls you under so they can't get to you. So they're going to go through someone else. So, and let that be okay. Or they're going to come in your dreams when you're not thinking. Our brains create grief for us and we're thinking, and then our souls react to that grief. So we want to allow that space basically for them to come in. And so I tell them, turn on music, dance. Who wants to do that when they're grieving? No one. Laughter, that we don't want to do those things. And so we just let it be what it is. They'll find a way, and just let them. They will find a way to reach you, even if it's through someone else. If you're meant to hear the message, trust me when I tell you, you will hear it.
Oh, beautiful. Well, that's a perfect way to end. Suzanne, where can people find you?
I'm Susan Grau official
Susan.
on all social media. Um, it's Grau. I always have to say that because people spell it with a W. I am at susangrau.com to read about me or to learn about my journey. I have a book out called Infinite Life, Infinite Lessons, and it's wisdom from the spirit world on living, dying, and the in-between. It's an excellent book for people who want to learn about fear, basis intuition, connection to the spirit world, what it's like there, where their loved ones are. It's a very powerful book. Spirit wrote it, not me. I don't take credit for it. Um, I'm proud of being willing, but they did the writing of it. It's an amazing book. And I have Infinite Soul Sanctuary, which is a subscriber site to it's all things spirit. And I go on once a month and I teach.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I appreciate you living and being and doing what you do and standing in your truth and helping people through the most difficult times of their lives. And um, I am in the middle of listening to your book on Audible, about halfway through, and it's truly amazing. It just is so helpful. So thank you so much. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you.
I appreciate yours. Thank you for having
Right.
me.